Perfect. That is us live. Thank you so much to everyone who's joining us live here at the NAAEE conference. We're on day 3. I have recorded one podcast already. I've done my presentation and I'm back for another podcast discussion, and I'm so excited. I'm your host, Jack Baker. I am the host of Pangolin, the Conservation Podcast, and today I am joined by someone who is having an equally busy conference, I believe. We have Marc LeFebre, who his conference schedule, just to give everyone listening a basic rundown. You've got 3 presentations you're doing. We've got Project Wild, Wildlife Conservation and Student Achievement for 40 plus years, meeting educators where they're at, and Schedule, Scope, Budget and Critters, Project Management for EE programs. So a busy few days for you, Marc. Thank you so much for making the time to be here with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure. I feel like, though, I've given people a rundown of perhaps like what they can expect to hear from you throughout the conference, but that doesn't say really anything about who you are. So I wondered, do you want to introduce yourself to the listeners? Tell us who you are, what your background is, and yeah, just let us get to know you a little bit.
Sure. Marc LeFebre, and I am the Project Wild Program Manager. I work for the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, and the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, that is we call it the national office. It's really the international office for Project Wild. And that's where Project Wild is headquartered. That office is in DC. I live in Austin, Texas. And I've been working on the Project Wild program since 2002. Prior to that, I used the Project Wild program when I was a teacher. So I was a second grade teacher. I taught middle school, special education. I also taught in a psychiatric hospital for a bit with people of all ages with mental illnesses. But Project Wild has been always been a go-to for me before I was working on it directly.
Amazing. And I guess like that would be a nice place to start the conversation. I am going to make a brief note though to anyone listening to this. It is bonfire night here in the UK, which is the 5th of November, the anniversary of which was celebrated every year, which is to do with the gunpowder plot to blow up the Houses of Parliament. So every year people put off fireworks on the 5th of November. And it's just gone 6 o'clock at night here and fireworks have started. So if you hear some light explosions in the background, that's what that is. But that aside, Marc, do you want to tell us a little bit about Project Wild, hopefully without the flare of fireworks in the background for the people at home?
Yeah, so Project Wild is one of, there's a number of national and again international environmental education programs. And we consider some of those our sister programs. But Project Wild started in 1983. The focus is on wildlife, North American wildlife in particular, with a lot of emphasis on ecological concepts, ecological principles, as well as social and political learning about wildlife and how we are stewards of wildlife, and also actions we can take to be stewards of wildlife. We help educators use Project Wild lessons, we call them activities, and how they can integrate that into whatever curriculum they follow or teach, or after school or out of school programming they have. It's pre-K through 12th grade, although a lot of college professors use it too. It's distributed historically and still through a train the trainer model. And so in every state, we have, within the United States, we have a Project Wild coordinator. Those folks train a group of facilitators or trainers, and then those facilitators train the teachers and the non-formal educators who then take it to the students. In Canada, the program is administered a little differently, but it's through the Canadian Wildlife Federation. And in Japan, it's with the Japan Parks Foundation. There's also a history of activity in several other countries as well, but right now it's the United States primarily, as well as Japan, and Canada, where the project is mostly used.
That sounds incredible, and I think so. If I'm remembering correctly, I actually came to your presentation on Monday,
Okay.
and was it something you said like 1.5 million people? Was that 1.5 million people are engaged in the
Mhm.
program? Like it's a huge program, right?
Well, what that means is since we started, I say
Hmm.
we, myself, as well as all the people that came before me working on Project
Hmm.
Wild, that they were doing that when I was starting high school, But
Yeah.
uh, since its launch in 1983, there have been over 1.5 million educators who've been trained. My
Hmm.
guess is it's probably getting close to 2 million now. We kind of stopped counting, but there was a point, I don't know, around 2004 where we looked at all of the publications we distributed, knowing that all of those were distributed at professional development workshops.
Hmm.
And it was we hit the million mark, and that was back in the early 2000s.
I feel like it might be time to start counting again because 2 million. You should. I feel like you deserve a cake or something to celebrate 2 million. So that's a lot of
It's a
people.
great promotional strategy too. But yeah, it is for celebration for sure.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. And I wonder, like, something that I think, like, I was kind of thinking about, and when we did our email exchange the other day, I think something that was it kind of stood out to me that you pointed this out, right? It's like when a program runs for that long, for 40 years, in a world that is constantly changing, with student expectations that are constantly changing, with educator stuff, like all of our educators' experience constantly changing. I wonder, like can you tell us a little bit about how what that means for a project that has run for an education project that's run for this long? That's fascinating to me.
It means being able to adapt, and,
Mhm. Yeah.
um, environmental educators. That's one of our favorite metaphors, right? But it really is
Mhm.
adapting to changes in the ecosystem of how education works and how government works, how
Mhm.
wildlife, in our case, how wildlife conservation is managed.
Mhm.
As all of that changes, we help adapt. We adapt to that, and we're
Mhm.
also not just adapting to it. We're also helping lead the change because we're in the business of educating, and so
Mhm.
helping the larger society, create the new systems and starting with young children and their appreciation for wildlife to high school students who might be engaged in service projects or learning about their local ecosystem, maybe even in their schoolyard.
Mhm.
But that adaptation, it takes many forms. And one area that's been challenging for these Project Wild and our other big national programs that were based primarily on the distribution of hard copy materials, books, has been the digital age
Mhm.
and how to keep it going and make the business model work to where we can provide content electronically. Um, we're we're trying to do hands-on learning. We're trying to do learning about places and communities and
Mhm.
the nature that's connected to those communities. And so online learning is really challenging in that way. But on the other hand, it's
Mhm.
also what is what is the new reality.
Mhm. And it's something I think about a lot. Is right. These online spaces they and this turn into online learning and into places, right? Like we're on a podcast right now, which is the most online way of learning and sharing information it possibly can be. And it provides accessibility to places and people and to all sorts of communities perhaps you could never reach before, but does it in some cases reduce that connection, right, and that real human feeling? And I think that's it's something that I think a lot about, and I think it's part of the reason we wanted to do this podcast stage, right, is to help people connect on a human level instead of just in chats. And when it comes to practical education, I am it yeah, it must be something really challenging, especially I guess when it's so I suppose when you've done I know you were saying that educators like they train and it's kind of it's kind of everybody it's a human based kind of training model almost like so is it now delivered in like online seminars and is that how have you adapted to that? That's really
Well, yeah, so primarily it's still the old model
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
educators coming together in places to get face-to-face training,
Hmm.
but more and more often educators aren't able to do that for
Hmm.
various reasons, or there are more challenges in the
Hmm.
way. And so we have developed a set of online courses for educators,
Hmm.
professional development courses that are between 3 to 8 hours in length on
Hmm.
various subjects. How to use Project Wild, and then there's more more honed in themes, thematic units. They all involve wildlife, but for example, climate and wildlife. How can
Hmm.
we how can we integrate concepts around climate adaptation into our
Hmm.
curriculum, regardless
Hmm.
of what subject we teach? And or maybe it's focusing on migratory birds or early childhood learning in nature. We offer several courses along those lines. We launched uh, some new ones recently. Monarch Marathon on monarch butterflies. Um, we've been continuing over the last couple of years to do one wild about bats, and then for higher level audiences, high school, middle school, we're starting. We've launched one on human dimensions of wildlife conservation,
Hmm.
healthy the health aspects of wildlife and people, and
Hmm.
that involves learning about wildlife related diseases, zoonotic diseases,
Hmm.
and also on migration, like
Hmm.
what we need to do as a society to help migratory species thrive, when they're
Hmm.
crossing political boundaries, for example, and long expanses of land that may have human made obstacles in the way.
Hmm.
So lots of new content and options for online learning for educators, but whenever possible, we steer educators to the face-to-face training.
Yeah. Hmm. I think that's really nice, and I think what's really interesting about that to me certainly is this. It sounds like not only are the trainings perhaps moving online sometimes, and you're still encouraging that human aspect, which is wonderful, but the topics of the trainings are remaining relevant and keeping up with, and the discussions like the human aspects of conservation, which and nature based things, which a while ago probably wouldn't have been discussed as prominently, right? Even things like zoonotic disease, like that's something that probably in the last few years has taken a huge relevance, right? That like people wouldn't necessarily have been discussed as much. That's really interesting that the content is also changing slightly as well. Hmm. Yeah.
I wanted to mention too, Jack, the and it doesn't have to be all one or the other, right? It doesn't have to
Hmm.
be all online or all in person.
Hmm.
The hybrid model, I think, is where online training has the most strength. And so
Hmm.
there's a lot of educators all over, especially North America, getting trained in Project Wild, and there's a lot of similarities between all of those trainings. They're all getting a lot
Hmm.
of the same basic content, but then they also get it, localized to their
Hmm.
region, the local organizations they're with, what resources they have. So it's very
Hmm.
localized training too. So what we're trying to do is like give an option for this hybrid where
Hmm.
they maybe take the online portion where they get the basics about Project Wild and wildlife education, and then they go meet in person with a
Yeah.
Project Wild facilitator in their region,
Hmm.
as well as a cohort of other educators to meet and have that community.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. And I think it's something that, yeah, is a nice reminder for us all is that, especially while we're at an online conference, maybe the online learning is important, but also those human connections are so important as well. And turning these moments that we make online into something real, I think is also so important. And even just getting up from your computer today and taking a breath and going out and listening to the birds or whatever, so important. Um, I wonder then, is that what you're. So I know we have a huge range of presentations there, perhaps not enough time to talk about all of them in depth, but is that the kind of topics you're covering at your presentations throughout the week, or are you
Mm-hmm.
touching on other things?
Well, so the first two, yes, were largely about what is Project Wild and how have we adapted to these changes. actually tomorrow I'm teaming up with Esther Cowles of, Esther, I've worked with Esther for many years. She's a veteran environmental educator, but both of us are involved in project management, and well, many environmental educators are, and we kind of get into it not intentionally, or we don't start out with a focus on project management in mind, but we've developed our project management knowledge and skills over the years. So we're doing a presentation tomorrow on project management for environmental educators.
Amazing. I think that's an essential. I think that's going to be, I think it's something I certainly need. So I will probably be popping along. Is this like, because I think it's something that, in a world that's overwhelming, and when there's 100 plates spinning, and when there's all these things going on, taking time to actually sit and think through these processes, I will be interested to hear what you have to say on them, because I think that will be really beneficial. And just for everyone's awareness, we have all of these presentations. If you're at the NAAEE conference and not listening to this through the YouTube distribution or anything, all of these things will be all of the presentations I think are available till January. So all of these things you can go back and learn more about if you can't attend them all. I think what's quite nice is we've actually had a question from one of our audience members, and I think it would be a nice thing to touch on as we move towards the end of this conversation, is where can people enroll in the trainings that we've talked about? Because you've got people in the audience keen. Where can they go to kind of learn more, follow the work, enroll in these things? I think that would be a really good thing to kind of highlight for people.
Sure. So the web page that will get you there is www.projectwild.org.
Perfect.
So that web page, it actually takes you into the larger website of the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, but you'll get to the landing page for Project Wild, and then you can find out how to get training. You'll see a big yellow button there, get training, and you can find out who coordinates Project Wild in your state if you're in the United States. And if you're not in the United States, well, contact me and we can figure something out. But you can contact your state Project Wild coordinator in the United States through that route. You can learn about Project Wild online courses by you can go that route. And especially under the What's New section on that page, you'll see links with information for our online offerings.
Brilliant. No, that's fantastic. And so thank you for submitting that question, because I think it's nice to be able to have this interaction and to point you in the right direction of all of these wonderful things we've been talking about. I am noticing, though, that this time has absolutely flown by, and we are in a packed day of amazing sessions. So I don't want to keep you too long. But the last thing I've been asking all of my guests is my name is Jack. I'm the host of Pangolin, the conservation podcast, which is all about underappreciated creatures and misunderstood stories. And so the thing I like to ask everybody on my show, and I've been doing here because I'm intrigued to hear our environmental education answers, is if you could shine a spotlight, everyone in the audience listening to this, looking at this, on an underappreciated creature, whatever it is, whether it's something you've worked with or something you're a fan of or whatever it is, what would your favorite underappreciated creature be that deserves a bit more love this conference?
Yeah, I bet that's a hard question for all my colleagues. There's so many. And I'm tempted right off the bat to say the grackle, the common grackle, because they're all over around our homes in Austin here, and either love them or hate them. And of course I love them, but I'm not going to. So everybody loves rabbits, right? But not everybody loves jackrabbits. They're long and scrawny, and they don't look as cute, and they're hares. They're not rabbits. We hear that too, but they're amazing. And I just am fascinated by jackrabbits.
And as a namesake, I am also fascinated. I'm like, it's jackrabbits. Perfect. No, I think that's an excellent one. And one maybe if people get a breath of moment in this busy few days of conference, go and look them up, learn more about them. Because Yeah, I actually don't think I know too much about them, so I'm going to have to go away and learn more. You've inspired me as well. Um, no, that's brilliant. So thank you so much for joining us today. As I've said, we have all the links and stuff we've shared. Is there any other contact information or things you'd like to share with the audience, or should they go to that website and that's the best place to go for to learn more?
I'd be
Project
happy
Wild.
to give my email too, if I may.
Yeah.
And it might be, I don't know if there's a chat people can pull it from, or I could drop it in there. Would that work?
I can. What we'll do is, if you say it out loud, and we can pop it in the description of this when it
Okay.
goes onto the YouTube channel, so
Okay.
people can
Well, it's
find
kind
you.
of tricky because my last name is confusing, but it's M,
Yeah,
and then my last name LEF, like Frank, EB, like boy, RE at fishwildlife.org.
perfect. Perfect. No, that's fantastic, and I'm sure you will get people asking you many questions. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today. Just before we wrap up, I'll also say this podcast stage is going all conference long. All of the sessions we've recorded so far are available on the NAAEE's YouTube channel, so go listen to the back catalogue. There's been some amazing, amazing conversations so far. They're absolutely phenomenal. And then, yeah, we've got live sessions at 9:30 a.m., 10:15, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. every day of the conference. So click back on this link if you're in the live stream, and you'll be able to watch that as well. If you're interested in my podcast, it's Pangolin the Conservation Podcast, available everywhere you get your podcasts from, and you can reach out to me on social media and things, Jack Baker, wherever you do those things. Now, I will wrap up by saying a huge thank you, Mark, for your time, and a huge thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. And until next time, everyone, thank you again so much for listening. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your conference. Goodbye.
Bye.